What's up, my dudes? Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you guys have a most excellent day today. It's your main man, Shrapnel Valga, and I'm bringing you a video on a tweet that really ground my gears today, and I figured I'd share my opinion with all y'all. And that is this tweet from this dude who's saying that he thinks fursuit makers are charging too much, about $6 grand. And he does make some valid points in that some fursuit makers have some bad business practices, like, massive queues, skipping one customer to go to another one further down because they may like that commission more, or whatever. I ain't gonna say these ain't valid concerns, but I want to address the fact that they're saying fursuit makers in general, they're not specifying, are charging too much when they say $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 for a fursuit. And then this person has the gall to boast that all their fursuits cost less than $3,500. Now, as you can expect, the comment section was eating this person alive, and the tweet has now been deleted. I guess they felt a little bit ashamed about what I said. At least I hope they did. So unfortunately, I can't link you to the original tweet in the comments below, but I got screen caps because, this isn't just wrong. This is downright insulting to fursuit makers. Not gonna lie, I think this is outright insults to these dudes. I mean, when you consider the amount of effort the fursuit makers put into their craft, most fursuits I know take between 150 or 250 or even 300 hours to complete each. Each fursuit, just a single partial fursuit. More for if you're making a full suit. That's possibly like 2 or 3 months of constant, 9 to 5 full-time work. When you break it down, that's like, 150 hours is like a full month at 37 hours a week. That's your average office work hours. So a full month of full-time work minimum to make just a partial. Probably looking at 3 to 4 months minimum to make a full suit, with all the gubbins and all the bells and whistles that you would get when you're charging £6,000, £7,000 or £8,000 for the fursuit. So when you break it down, you're probably lucky if the fursuit maker's getting about $2,000 a month off a fursuit. And that's before costs. Don't forget, it isn't just material costs. There's cost of electricity, cost of equipment, cost of God knows what, sundry charges that just creep on in there. That's going to chip into that money. But wait, there's more. Because let's not forget taxes. These people aren't taxed a source like you and I on a regular income. They have to put the money aside and pay the taxes through their tax return at the end of the tax year. So they're probably lucky to see maybe $1,000 a month, maybe $1,500 at a push of that money. But even at this high-end estimate, it's barely minimum wage here in the UK. And at the low-end estimate, that's well below minimum wage that they're charging for their craft. That's super slim pickings, especially in this current economy. And in my opinion, if they're living on their own or something like that, or having to put a roof over their head, that's not enough to live off. Especially considering how much they could make if they were working in the private sector, working away from the furry fandom. Now, these details are not that hard to find. A quick Google will bring these figures up for you. But on average here in the UK, a costume designer can earn about £34,000. Or if you go over to the States, the average costume designer is earning about $42,000. And that price absolutely skyrockets if they happen to be working in like the film and TV industry. At that point, it's up to about $3,000 to $3,500 a week. Now, at that $6,000 to $8,000 estimate that this person used, they'd have to sell a full suit every 2 weeks or so just to break even with that wage. Or, if they're going off the $3,500 that this person boasted they bought their fursuits for, the maker would have to make a fursuit every single week just to equal the wage of being in the film or TV industry designing costumes. So while this dude and a few others may think the fursuit makers are overcharging, it's clear compared to what they can make in the private sector, they are way undervaluing their skills. And they would be so much better off taking their experience dive to the private sector and working for someone else rather than cutting it on their own. They would make so much more money doing that. And that's another point I'd like to make in this video, is that fursuit making is not, an unskilled job that anyone can just jump into without any prior experience and just pick up and do and start cracking out $5,000 fursuits. That's not something you can do when it comes to making fursuits. These people, they've spent years, possibly even decades, mastering their craft, learning how to make these fursuits, building experience making these fursuits. They've honed their skills through decades sometimes of toil and labour creating most excellent creations for you most excellent furries out there. And that is then of course reflected in the price of their fursuit. To then go and say that they're overcharging for their skills and time and effort and labour and all this experience, that's insulting, my dudes. That is absolutely disgraceful, and you should be ashamed of yourselves if that's your opinion, if you're saying that these fursuit makers are charging too much for their skills. You know, if you have a problem with a particular maker's bad business practices, or if they've done something absolutely reprehensible or ripped a whole bunch of people off, then call those specific dudes out for that specific thing. Don't be tarring all fursuit makers with this too expensive brush, because that ain't groovy, my dudes. If you're one of these guys who genuinely think that fursuit makers are charging too much for their craft, then I've got one piece of advice for you people. Pick up a needle, pick up a thread, maybe pick up some scissors if that's not too much effort, and go make your own fucking fursuit, because clearly you don't deserve one from these most excellent dudes making them for a living. But if you are a most excellent dude and want to support local furries doing the most excellent things, consider joining my Patreon, where you can support me making more most excellent videos like this. But more importantly, consider joining the Patreon of a fursuit maker. And I would of course like to recommend Coniferous Creations. They made my most excellent fursuit about 6 years ago, and since then they've gone from strength to strength, making most amazing fursuits. And if you join their Patreon, you can see what they're working on right now. And I have to say, being a member of their Patreon, they are making some absolutely banging fursuits. There is one that's going to be coming to Confuzzle this year, which is going to blow your mind. I am not joking, and you can see the work in progress of that over on their Patreon. Also, if you just want to come chill, chat and hang out with some most excellent dudes, I have a Discord server. The links to everything is down below. But other than that, I hope you're having the most excellent day. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Consider hitting the bell icon if you do subscribe. You know the shtick. Other than that, though, I hope you have an amazing day and an outstanding week, and I will see you dudes in the next video, okay? Take care, ta-ra.